Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Cheyenne Wyoming Urban Gardener, or Debbie, and we're out here very early in the morning on August 15th, and we're just looking over some of the produce that we're getting right now. This of course did not come out of my garden. I had a neighbor bring over a half a box of mangoes that she had picked up from a fruit truck that comes to Wyoming from Washington. I'm not sure how they get the mangoes to there, but I'm sure it's probably by shipment. But she brought me over a half a box of mangoes. I have a couple of them sitting in the window right now because they were pretty green, but for the most part, the rest of them are so delicious and so ripe and so ready. And then yesterday, she also brought me over a bag full of pickling cucumbers. So I have a bag full of pickling cucumbers. I'm already getting cucumbers like crazy out of my garden. And that was what I was showing you in the first two shots, is tomatoes and some cucumbers that I've been picking every single day that I go outside. But she also brought me over this entire bag of pickling cucumbers. So I guess we're going to be pickling today. And I'm also saving tons of seeds right now. That's some Caribbean hot peppers that I have saved. They're not really that hot, just a little bit more spicy than a green pepper would be. They're not really that bad. Some Big Jim's pepper seeds, and a different pepper that we don't really know the name of, so we're just calling it the pepper from the Bath Garden Center in Fort Collins. We saved those seeds, and I think it's a giant Marconi, but I'm not real sure. And then we're saving some of our strawberry seeds. We've got some of those laying out here. And then we've got the Flavor Burst green peppers. We've pulled a couple of them off of the plants outside and have stuffed those peppers and eaten those, but we did go ahead and save the seeds from inside. And a whole bunch of Anaheim peppers that I picked up from a local place called Y Fresh, or Wyoming Fresh. And it's just a little farm stand. It's the only one in Cheyenne, Wyoming so far. And very nice little farm stand. She has just about everything. Most of it comes out of her own garden and greenhouses, but she also gets some stuff from other local places in Colorado and in Wyoming. She mostly tries to stick in Wyoming, but she also brings in Palisade peaches and other fruits from Colorado. And then we have some Calendula seeds that I've been saving. I just let them dry in this little container right here, and then I go ahead and put them in a bag. And then usually our little tiny basket right here would be absolutely filled to the brim with hibiscus flowers that we've been saving and drying. But yesterday a fellow came and bought all of those hibiscus flowers, and he wants to be a regular guy that comes and buys the hibiscus flowers that we don't use. So I just went ahead and packed those up for him, and he took those. And then we're drying some Gerbera daisies over here, and I just finished drying some dill and getting ready to clean that out. And we're out here in the main garden now. Well, one of the main gardens. We basically have 9 plots, so all of them to me are part of the main garden, and we're expanding, of course. We've done a lot more this season with this side on the right when we come out the front door than we have done in the past, and we're going to keep going with this. We're actually going to till up all of the flower beds all the way around to the north side and on through the north side, and possibly even another couple of patches that we're looking at to go ahead and till those up, because I'm beginning to starting to get people that want to get some greens and things like that off of me. And if I can plant a whole lot of those, I do not mind at all going ahead and providing greens to a lot of people. So we have started doing that. And you can see that our dinosaur kale is really picking up and growing now, finally. It took a very long time, but it finally set good root, I guess. So yesterday was a decrease in temperatures quite a bit. We have been in the low 90s to mid 90s or upper 80s for a long time now. It's actually been about 4 or 5 weeks, so we've been experiencing that every day. And then lows go mostly into the lower 70s and then stay at mid 60s to lower 70s through the night, most of July and most of August now. And finally, yesterday we had a break. We got down to 73 for the high, and then at night it was still close to 60, so it wasn't too bad. But I think tonight we're also supposed to be down close to 60. It's actually starting to dip into the upper 50s, which is bad for cucumbers and bad for watermelon and other types of melons, but it is a break from the heat that we've had for this past extended time, which to me is not really that hot because I'm from East Tennessee originally, and I've been living in Cheyenne, Wyoming for 7 years. And in Tennessee, you can typically have through the summer temperatures in the 90s and humidity in the 90s. Here, the humidity is still pretty low, even when it's a high temperature. So you're looking at humidity around 20 to 30% versus being in East Tennessee, where it's normally in the 90s as far as percentage for humidity. So you can see that our pumpkins are really starting to produce now. And they have just been putting on fruit everywhere. We've got some very unusual looking varieties of fruit in here because I'm thinking we saved some of the seed from last season, and I do think that there was some that was cross-pollinated, and it'll still be delicious squash. It just, some of it looks kind of like a straight neck yellow squash, but then mixed with a pumpkin or something. So they'll still be edible, and they'll even turn orange if you just leave them, because I had that happen last season. So I'm not too worried about it. We've got some tried and true pumpkins in here as well. Let me see if I can show you that one, because it has gotten kind of buried by some of the other stuff, but it is getting quite huge too. So here is a regular run-of-the-mill pumpkin right there, and of course it'll turn orange later in the season. And then we've got a regular pumpkin right here, a little oddly shaped, but I think it wasn't pollinated quite well, but it did pollinate enough. So, and we do have a white pumpkin that looks very normal, which I thought was going to be an acorn squash, but it isn't. It is a white pumpkin, and there it is. And then of course we've got the really strange big guy in here that I think is a Boston marrow that just hasn't changed colors yet. So we've got quite a lot going on in there. There's some more that are set that are a little bit smaller, but it doesn't take long for them to get big very quickly. And I also wanted to show you, we don't really mention the flowers very often, but we have our snapdragons there that bloomed, and the plant is actually absolutely massive because it is inside of an old wagon wheel rim, and that is a cast iron pot that has been chained to the rim. And so this thing is about 5 feet tall, goes around about 5 feet, and that snapdragon is all the way past that in height in the pot. So I would think it's about probably 2.5 feet tall and just keeps getting taller, but it is blooming like crazy, and they're so beautiful. I did not expect to get that color, and I have a few more that are blooming around the garden, and I'll show you those in just a moment. But we're out here just looking at the pumpkins right now. We're getting ready to do some pickling today, and as well as baking bread today. But all of our flowers are just looking beautiful. Our coleus right there. And remember, we have 2 different colors there. And these have really started filling out because I turned them towards the light. I've been basically turning the pot every week or so both sides get light, because one side is really shaded. So you can see all of that in there. We've got some sunflowers that are blooming right now as well. Let me show you those. And some of them are some odd colors. Yeah, odd colors. So those I think came out of some bird seed. And then we've got some over here that are just about gone already. And let me show you the ones that are odd colors. I think one is a Chianti sunflower right there. Isn't that beautiful? And then I think we have one that is an autumn beauty. Isn't that guy gorgeous? And then we've got a couple of more bloomed out here, and I think they're also autumn beauties because they've got a little bit of that orange sunburst in them. And I think this one back here maybe a typical sunflower. But I don't know, the little bit of rim of color in the middle doesn't show up until they really bloom full, and that one's not bloomed full as yet. But what I did was I got a package of seed called a sunflower mix from Etsy and just planted those, and they tended to be mostly shorter varieties, as you see. Looks like we've had a squirrel chewing on this one right here. You can see that. Bad, bad, bad. But that's what they do here. The squirrels tend to go for the flowers before they're even bloomed, or just right when they bloom. So it's really a pain in the tuchus, we'll say. I've been putting up pans and streamers and stuff like that to try to keep them out of them, and that's worked. So I need to go ahead and put some pans over here. I've tied them up with twine to the fence. You can see the twine right there, just in case the heads get too heavy and want to pull them over, and it's worked quite well. So I just wrapped them all the way around the sunflower heads, and you don't really even see the string that much unless you're really looking for it. Most people miss it that have came to visit. I've had people coming to visit and just stopping to see the garden. Sometimes just random people driving by that just want to see what all's going on in the garden. And a lot of people are surprised about how much that I grow in such a small space and using all of the available space and all of that. And I really appreciate that they're coming by to see the garden. I'm very open arms here about showing people the garden. And you can see all of our beans come up that we planted in here to replace the potatoes. And they're starting to put on some of their mature leaves now. And then we do have carrots that are coming up like crazy that we had planted through here. And we are also starting to get carrots in the main carrot beds that are pretty big now. You'll see that in there. And we had the red giants in here, the shin carota, and the Parisian ox hearts. And then we had a couple of other mixtures in there as well, just to fill in, that I don't even remember all of them now. And we had some Danvers and rainbow carrots in here. In the other bed, we didn't have very many of the rainbow carrots come up, but we have a few. And we'll be looking forward to those. It looks like a couple of them will be purple. But for the most part, it looks like oranges and reds. And you can see our lettuce back there. It's trying to bolt now because this lettuce has been going for quite a while. And we've got some romaine lettuce in there that we need to get in here and pick. And all of our cilantro that we planted near the steps has all came up. You can see some of them are still small, but others are getting ready to bloom already. And I picked up a mum at Menards a couple days ago, and it's just so pretty, and it's kind of a pinkish purplish color, and it is so full of bloom this season. I haven't ever had one that has been this full of bloom. It just feels like a cushion when you put your hand on it. And we have some purple aster over here, and those look really pretty as well. But all of our flowers that we planted from seed ourselves everywhere and transplanted out of places, it's just looking beautiful. And then the couple of geraniums that we picked up at the beginning of the season, they're still blooming just as much as they can. Some of them have already died back, but they're also blooming again and again and again. And our verbena is blooming as well. And you can see all of our beets are doing just amazing. We've gotten some rather large beets in here now. And then, of course, we still have some coming on. And our turnips have really just ballooned out in the last several days. And it's a small patch, but we have a lot of turnips in there. And I had some quite nice turnips last season, right in the same area. So I look forward to those. I might even go ahead and dig out back here, because there's a little bit more area back there, and get that cleaned out and plant some more turnips just to have more in there, because they'll continue to grow throughout the winter. I've never had an issue with that, even though it's cold as it gets here. So you can see one of the squirrels took the head off of that sunflower, so that's gone. But it may throw up some more shoots and put on some smaller flowers, which will be just as pretty. So I just left it in there. Plus I can't hardly reach it at this point unless I go around the back. This one's getting ready to bloom and is kind of surrounded by all of the pumpkin vines and things. So I think they'll probably leave that one alone. Our rhubarb is still just nuts in here. It's just crazy with the amount of stalks that we have in here. And I think I see some bindweed back there I need to get out. So that is what that looks like. And it kind of just creeps around, looks like kind of like morning glory, and then starts taking over things. So I need to get in there and get that out. And our Russian kale is looking quite nice now, starting to look like it's full size, but just not quite there yet, but it's getting pretty big. I need to get in here and do some hoeing and weeding. And our Swiss chard has ballooned out like crazy as well. This is the first time I've had Swiss chard that looks so nice. I mean, some of these leaves on this guy are massive, and I think this one is a Ford hook. So you can see just how big these are. And then we've got radishes in here that are getting quite nice. That's a piece of bread that the squirrels have dragged over here. So we try to keep them appeased with some food, and it usually works. And with the other things. So you can see our acorn squash are doing pretty nice in here as well. They're starting to bloom and setting some fruit, so it doesn't take acorn squash very long once they get started. And of course we have the north side. I won't go through that one right now because there hasn't been a whole lot of changes there except for vines that are getting bigger and some blooming. But you can see how pretty the walkway is out through here with the roses. And we've got the comfrey here. The comfrey is blooming, cute little pink blooms. And we've got some zinnias over here that are just about ready to bloom. They've gotten bitten and things by insects along the fence line. The fence line, for some reason, holds a lot of pests. Probably where we had the vines here previously. And it's slowly starting to have pests move on. But in the meantime, there's still some things that do chew around on the leaves. But they still are going to bloom, and they'll still be pretty. Our compact basil hasn't done a whole lot, but it is getting bigger. You can see we have some bigger leaves in there. It looks like I'm going to have to pull out a lot of these little guys that are just not coming on because we'll let room for the ones that are. Our lavender has really filled out in the container here. You can see that we're getting to the point that it's probably going to start thinking about blooming pretty soon. And our fuchsia has just not stopped blooming in both of them. And we're getting to the point that we can almost harvest some basil seeds now. You can see what the basil seeds look like. If you've never experienced that before, they come on these long shoots and then lots of little seeds through here. And this is a sweet basil. So this is the one that is pretty much the favorite of ours, but you can see what the flowers look like and then what the seed pods start to look like. And you don't have to do anything special with these. They'll actually stay in the seed pods for quite a bit before you can come in and harvest the seeds. So I saw some people on different channels, they were tying bags around their seed heads and all kinds of things. I've never done that. You just let the stalks like that, and the seeds will stay inside of those dried out little papery shells for a while. And these are probably already ready. I could harvest these if I wanted to, but they'll stay in there for a while. And then the rest of them, it gives them time to get ready because the end parts always take a little bit longer. And then I just come in and break them off at that point, and then these will continue to grow. So I'll go ahead and break them off at that point and then save the seed. And then this batch of basil will go back inside for another winter. This basil is second year basil. It's been around for 2 years now, and I've harvested seeds off of it. So it just keeps continuing to grow, and we'll keep continuing to have it. Our oregano, we've harvested a couple of times off of it, and it's still looking beautiful. Still got plenty of it to come on. I need to move it into a sunnier area. I've been moving it slightly towards the sun a little bit all the time because I had an issue last season where I moved it into the sun and it just about killed all of it. So we're just gonna keep moving it that direction until it gets the idea. Our Delicata Squash, which is also along the fence here, I have turned it back to where it's going to start climbing the fence. Not normally something I do with squash, but the vines are not very long on these. They're more like a bush variety, but they do have a vine, so I turned them back the other way so they'll continue. And there's a couple of little squash on them. Let me see if I can show you here. There's one right there. Now it has not pollinated yet because it has not bloomed, and we do have some male flowers on it, so you can see one right there. Once this blooms, and hopefully it'll do it before the male flowers are gone, we'll get those pollinated. And we've got beans also growing along the fence here. We got some rattlesnake pole beans, Kentucky Wonders, through here. And I have gotten some beans off of them, but they're still kind of short. They're just now starting to run up the fence. But they have already had beans on them at the base, and I have collected those. And then we've got another bunch of sunflowers over here, which were much younger, but they do have bloom heads on them, so they'll be blooming pretty soon. And we did the same thing over here. We tied them up with a string, and it kind of seems to be deterring the squirrels as well after I did that. So that is something that has been good, and I'll tie some streamers or something on them to scare the squirrels a little bit more. But I've noticed that they tend to leave certain things alone in certain areas of the garden, and I don't know if it's because we frequent those areas more or what, or they're just farther away from trees, so they avoid those pretty well. And then into the main garden, you can see that our red curry squash probably has runners on it now of about 50 feet long. They start somewhere near the back or the middle, and it came all the way out here, wrapped around the fence, and you can see that it has just ran along the fence and ran along the fence and ran along the fence, and every 5 feet or so there has been a red curry squash produced. So it keeps going all the way out here until it has gotten into the sunflowers, and I'm going to bring it back down and put it back along the fence again. Our bachelor buttons flowers are blooming in here, and they're just really pretty little flowers. All different colors. We've had some pinks, and we've had some purples, and we've had some more lavender looking color, and even some white ones. So all kinds of little colors of bachelor buttons in there. But as you can see, this red curry squash has just went nuts. It's just overachieving, we've been calling it. But it has lots of squash in there. One of them is right here. You can see peeking through is pretty big. And that's more towards the back end of that squash. And then it turns and goes into the main red curry area. These, for some reason, did much, much better than the ones that are closer to the beans that we'll show you in just a moment. But we have a couple of really nice red curry squash in there. You can see them kind of peppered in. And then, of course, we've got yellow straight neck squash back there as well. So I will not be saving the seeds off of these because they most likely did cross-pollinate. But we have some yellow squash back in there. And we've got probably 5 or 6 hanging on one plant right now that are pretty big that I need to get in there and harvest. So I'm not sure if you can see them because the sun is shining today, and it's supposed to be in the lower 80s, which will be nice. Our peppers are just going nuts. And I found with melons and cucumbers and peppers, even though it's been cooler like it was yesterday, they will continue to grow for me because I guess some of the heat is held in with all of the things that I normally surround my peppers with. So they have continued to grow. I've noticed even a significant difference between the day before and then yesterday, where they have continued to grow. But we have so many peppers in here. They're just loaded with peppers. And we still have our own seed peppers that we have growing over here. They're still growing. They're still blooming. They're still trying to produce, even though they are getting so shaded out by the red curry. The red curry is just really taken over. And you can see a couple of places where the red curry is encroaching into the peppers over here. So hopefully they don't take completely over of that section. But I keep getting in there and turning them back. So it's working so far. for the most part, but we just have loads and loads and loads of peppers in there. We've eaten some of them, we've stuffed them, they've been huge, and that's really a change for us in Cheyenne. I had some really nice peppers last season, and a lot of them, but some of them were not super huge, but these guys are getting huge. These are the Flavor Burst and the Better Bell 2 or 3, and they are just doing amazing. So very happy with those peppers, and we're saving seeds off of all of those. We've had zucchini like nuts. I just showed you a couple of shots at the very beginning of the video showing you some of the zucchini in here that we've been pulling out. But you can see it's very uniform plants this season. They are all the same height, about the same size. So they've been producing zucchinis like crazy. And our celery, of course, is still doing amazing. I'm just still letting it continue to grow. You can see that the red curry squash, you can see a bloom there in the back, had went that direction as well. So it has went all the way along the house. I'll show you the end of the vine here in a moment. But our celery in here, still doing amazing, still doing beautifully, and it's gotten so big. It's right up there with the zucchini. The zucchini's about 3 feet tall. So are the celery. So it's kind of amazing. And our cauliflower, you can see those through there, are doing amazing as well. And they haven't really produced any heads yet, but it was very late in the season when I got cauliflower heads last season, and it was all the way to the point that it was snowing, and that's before I actually started getting some cauliflower heads off my cauliflower. So it just goes a really long season. I'm not really sure that I'll be growing cauliflower again next season, because it does take up a lot of the garden, and it just is so long to produce unless I find a much shorter season variety of cauliflower. Then I probably will not be growing it again, because it just takes so long. Typically the broccoli is ready long before the cauliflower is, but this season I ended up with a later variety of broccoli, and it's taking a very long time, so it has not produced as yet. So it took the whole season, and it's still, I mean, they're huge. You can see them behind the cauliflower. One of my plants is well over 3 feet tall. It's right over here. So you can see that broccoli back there is just enormous. Still hasn't produced as yet. It looks like it wants to. It hasn't yet. It's a little shaded over here, but not a huge amount. Usually we start getting sun in this area at about 11 a.m. and it'll stay sunny in here until about 5. So it's getting plenty of sun. I'm not real sure what's taking so long on it this season, other than just it was a longer variety, and it's the Waltham broccoli. And I do have the Desisco broccoli as well that I just planted, and it's coming on a lot faster than the Waltham broccoli did. So I'm looking forward to that, and seeing if that's would be a better variety to grow. And I had broccoli earlier in the season, last season, than I do this season, and I'm not real sure if it's something to do with the soil temperatures in the beginning or what. But you can, again, this is the other side of that broccoli. You can just see how big that one is. That one is the largest one. But some of the other ones are just right up there with it. So beautiful broccoli. Anyway, we will go into a part 2 of this video. It's just a little update on the garden and going through some of the things that we are getting out of the garden so far, and some little updates on what's going on. So we will see you in the part 2. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you like the videos and you want to see more of these videos and see how we do in Cheyenne, Wyoming for gardening, Zone 5A, 5B. We'll see you in part 2.